Hello everyone, I am Madhuri, a ServiceNow expert working at Palni India Private Limited. With extensive experience in collaborating with customers across various domains, I have successfully delivered numerous ServiceNow implementations. I specialize in developing service portals and implementing Employee Central, ensuring an excellent user experience in every project. I am excited to talk about the most important and commonly used concepts of AngularJS that play a crucial role in ServiceNow widget development. In this series of concepts of AngularJS for ServiceNow, I will cover key topics such as expressions, directives, scopes, filters, tables using clear and practical examples. By the end, you'll have a good understanding of using AngularJS in ServiceNow and you'll feel more confident in developing scripts. I'm eager to share this knowledge with you and assist you in maximizing the potential of AngularJS in your ServiceNow projects. Let's embark on this learning journey together. What are expressions? Expressions are small code snippets that allow us to perform calculations and combine the data or display information dynamically on the screen. This is the editor where we will try out our examples. Before diving into our topic, I created this widget called Demo in the service portal to write scripts and perform operations. Here you can notice different components like HTML template, CSS, client script, server script, link function and demo data. This is the HTML template. It accepts and displays the data. CSS is used for styling and client script is to write the logic for our application and server script is to run server side queries and link function to change the DOM. Here I will be writing the JSON data. For now, we'll use only the client script and the HTML template to perform our operations. When you open this menu, you can see the Enable Preview option to preview our output. Just click on it. The preview section will be open here. Let's start with a simple arithmetic expression. For that, I am taking a paragraph element and enclosing an expression within the double braces. For example, I am taking it as 5 plus 4 and saving it. The output is 9. Let's try out some other examples. For that, I am opening the client script. Here you can observe that I have created an object called person where I have given the values like string, number, boolean, arrays, object, functions and decimals and also the images and the color. Let's try one on one. Now let's access this person name called John Doe to the HTML template and let's display his name over here in the preview. Here you can notice the name has been displayed or in the preview. Likewise, you can also access the numerical values. I am giving %.age. Similarly, you can also access boolean values too. As true. Now let's access his hobbies and let's try to access this gaming one. As we know that index starts from 0 and let's try to access the gaming. I am giving it as hobbies of 1 and saving it. You can observe that result is gaming. To access the object called address street, just mention address.street. You can access the street value. Not just the string values and arrays and objects, you can also access functions too.
What's the function name here? It's called greet. Let's access this function. Greet off. I'm saving it now. Access the function successfully. Similarly, we can also access this decimal values too. Like salary. You can preview the output here. How about the images? To access the image, we need an image element. I'm taking it as image src, that means the source, and I'm enclosing it in double braces, which I'll be giving %.daughter, where the image is stored in the daughter variable, and I'm saving it. You can access the image here. Also, you can change the color of an element using the color. Here we have mentioned the color as green. Now we have to turn particular element into green. For example, this is the testing color, and I am styling this paragraph element using the style attribute, giving color as %.color. You can observe that the element was changed into green color. There were certain limitations using expressions. We can't use conditional statements like if else or loops like while or for inside expressions to perform logical operations. If we want to perform any complex or advanced logical operations, we can get it done using client scripts. Now, let's understand what is data binding. Data binding is a way to automatically synchronize data between the model and the view. Data binding can be implemented one way or two way. How do the expressions vary from data binding? Let's understand it practically.
Here in the client script, I am taking a variable called name and value as John. In the HTML template, I am taking a paragraph element. To access this name variable value to the HTML view, I am enclosing it in the double braces and accessing it. You can see the output here as John. The paragraph element demonstrates expression binding. Here, the name enclosed in the double braces evaluates the name variable from the client script and displays its value in the preview. Let's have a look on data binding. For that, I am taking a element called input and also the directive called ngModel, which helps in accessing data from the client script. You can preview the output as John. As you type in this input field, it will update the name variable automatically. The line paragraph element shows that as you change the input value, the paragraph element is updating in real time due to two-way data binding.
One-way data binding means data flows in one direction, typically from the model to the view. Here model is the client script and view is the HTML template. I am taking a variable called person, giving the first key as first name, its value as Sunita, taking another key as last name and its value as Williams. I am taking a paragraph element and binding person dot first name and running the code. If you change the content here like just Sunit, the displayed value will update accordingly. Two-way data binding allows data to flow in both the directions, from the model to the view and from the view back to the model. Now let's look at an example. Let's change it to the two-way data binding. Here we already have an object called person. Now to access this, I am taking a ngModel directive and giving it as first name. To practically show you, taking a paragraph element and accessing same the value which I have given to the input. You can see here. As we bind the input field with the object in the model using the ngModel, it automatically updates the model and returns the value to the view. It means it enables the two-way data binding.
AngularJS directives. Firstly, what are directives? Directives are special instructions that enhance HTML view or widget by making them interactive and responsive to user actions. Let's begin with nginit directive. This directive is essential for setting up initial variable values that can be utilized throughout the application. For instance, I am considering a div container element and initializing a variable with the help of nginit. I am initializing a variable called name and giving its value in single quotes as ServiceNow. Let's run the code now. You can preview the output as ServiceNow. In this example, the nginit directive assigns the value ServiceNow to the variable name. Consequently, the paragraph displays ServiceNow, demonstrating how the directive can initialize variables for use in HTML. ngbind directive. It connects a specified expression to an HTML element, automatically updating the displayed content as the expression changes. For example, I am considering a div element, initializing a variable called message and its value as welcome to ServiceNow. Let's bind this message element within the paragraph element using ngbind. You can preview the output as welcome to ServiceNow. Let's experiment further with a mathematical expression. I am binding a arithmetic expression like 10 by 2 and saving it. Output is 5. This evaluate the expression and render the output as 5. Now let's use the same expression within the curly braces. This also displays 5, confirming that the both ngbind directive and the curly braces syntax yield identical results. This similarity in output illustrates that they function in the same way by evaluating expressions and displaying their results seamlessly on the web page. ngModel allows you to bind the value of HTML form elements such as input fields, select boxes, and text areas to a variable in your application scope. This creates two-way data binding, meaning that changes made in the input field will automatically update the bound variable and the vice versa. Let's try out with a simple example. For that, take a variable called course. It's ServiceNow. I'm taking a input variable And to access the variable called quotes, here I am mentioning the variable name. To display the value, I am considering a paragraph element and binding its value within the double braces. You can preview the output here, like ServiceNow. Whatever the changes I am trying to modify in the input element, the same thing you can observe it is getting modified in the paragraph element too. Now let's have a look on ngRepeat directive. ngRepeat directive is used to iterate over collections such as arrays or objects to dynamically generate HTML content for each item. For instance, in the client script, I am initializing variable called names. First as John, then Janvi, then Madhu, then James, what are the names you can. Now I have to access these names in the HTML view. So take an ordered list and let's list out one on one. For that we are using here ngRepeat. In this name in names, each name in names, binding in the double braces as name. It iterates over each element in the array and displays element one by one. You can preview in the output. Let's try out with the object as well. Give a object name called object, then take multiple values like name as Janvi, then location as France, occupation as developer. Let's access this object in the HTML view. For that, consider a div element. For that, I am taking a ngRepeat directive to iterate over each element and give our output. For the object, we have to take key, comma, value and in object. Mention the same variable name which you have given in the client script here. And list out what are the key value pairs we have by enclosing them in the double braces. Key as well as the value. What actually ngRepeat is doing is, it is iterating over each key value pair and displaying it over in the preview. Let's look at few more. Let's start with ngIf directive. It removes or recreates portions of the DOM based on truthiness of an expression. If the expression evaluates to true, the element is added to the DOM. If it evaluates to the false, the element is removed completely along with its child elements and associated state. I am going to show how the ngIf directive works. For that, we have an input element with type checkbox, and I am initializing a variable called myVariable and its value as false. Also, I am considering a ngModel directive, its value as myvar. It creates two-way data binding between checkbox and the myVariable. Let me take a paragraph element and its value as welcome to ServiceNow, and I'm giving a ngIf directive here to access this variable as myvar. Initially, we are setting my variable to the false using ng-init. This makes sure that the checkbox is unchecked when we first load the page. Below the checkbox, we have an paragraph element with the directive ngIf with the value myvar. The ngIf tells the AngularJS to display the paragraph element only when myvar value is true. Now, if we check the checkbox, it will show the result as welcome to ServiceNow. The value has become true. So, when we load the page, myvar is false and we won't see the paragraph element. But as soon as we check the box, my variable becomes true, triggering the ngIf directive to render this paragraph element, and welcome to ServiceNow will appear on the screen. If we uncheck the box again, this my variable value becomes false and the paragraph element will disappear since the ngIf directive removes it from the DOM. Let's try out with an object. Consider a client script. Within that, and take multiple objects. Name as product 1, and if it's in stock, value as true. Likewise, similar product as product 2, and I am taking this in stock value as false. Let's access this in the HTML view. In the HTML view, consider a div element with ngRepeat directive and give it like product in products. ngRepeat is to loop through each product in the products array. It takes each item in the array and renders a new div element for every product object inside the products. For each object, I am considering another div element within the parent div element. To access this data, enclose the values in the double braces. Product.name hyphen whether it's available or not. If the ngIf value is true, it means this product.instock element product.instock. If it is true, then it displays the div element. You can preview the output as product 1 available. Moving on to ngClick. It allows to define custom behaviors for HTML elements when the user click on an object. We'll look at how to use the ngClick directive to create a simple click counter. Let's consider a button element and have the ngClick directive to set the count to count plus 1. To initialize this count variable, I have to initialize a variable called count. Its value as 0. Let's save it. You can preview the button here. Below that, let's have a paragraph element to display the value. When the count is updated with each click, the paragraph updates immediately, so we see the count go up by 1 every time. ngSelect directive allows to create dynamic and customizable drop-down lists by linking a select element to a model. This connection automatically populates the options based on the model's data, enhancing user experience with real-time updates.
Let's start with the input box. And consider a ng model directive to bind the data. Below that, have a paragraph element with my topics. To select options, we need options in it as topic 1, likewise topic 2 and 3. Let's save it and look at the preview. We have a drop-down list created with a select element containing 3 options. Topic 1, 2 and 3. The option we want to focus here is topic 2. We are adding ng selected directive here as my selected option. Let's see what happens. Initially, my select is false. When the checkbox is unchecked, it will switch to true if we check it. Then ng selected becomes true and it will make the topic 2 the selected option. Lastly, ng show or hide. ng show or hide controls the visibility of HTML elements based on the evaluation of expressions. For that, I am taking an input element. Its type as checkbox. To bind the data, we need a ng model. And initializing my variable as false. To visually check this ng show or hide directive, I need a paragraph element. Give ng show directive here to whether display this element or not. Likewise, if you replace this show with the hide and it says the ng hide directive and save it, you can preview the output here just like similar to the ng show directive. If we check the box, it will hide the element as the result as the value is false. If you uncheck the element, it will display the element. You might have confused what's ngF and ng show exactly. Let me show you with an example. To show the difference, let me open the DOM. To show you the difference, let me open the HTML view. Let me inspect first. You can observe whatever the elements we have given in the HTML template, it was displayed over here. If I check the checkbox, it is just hiding the element. It's not removing the element from the DOM. Let me replace the ng hide with the ngIf directive. When I select this checkbox in the preview, in the DOM, you can observe there is no element called paragraph next to the input element. If I check it, it was displaying the element and it is considered in the DOM. It clearly says that ngIf is used to remove the element from the DOM and ng show or hide is used to show or hide the element. Takeaway here is, if there is a content that should only be loaded or rendered based on specific conditions, for example like fetching data from a server, ngIf is appropriate because it will not load the content until the condition is true. On other hand, to show or hide elements frequently, for example in response to user actions like clicking buttons, use ng show or hide. I'll give a quick demonstration on how to create and work with AngularJS tables in ServiceNow with practical examples which are very frequently used in widget development. Let's consider a use case
Develop a widget to display instant number, short description, priority, state and assign to columns. We shall write our script in server-side script to retrieve data from the instant table. Here we are declaring an array within the data object. By using glide record API, instant records can be queried. Add query of where active file is true. gr.query of. Here we are querying the active instance. Populate instant array in the data object with required columns and their values. In the HTML section, let's create a table using ngRepeat directory to loop through each item in the data.instance array. Table for heading. Assign to. For the values. To access this data to the HTML view, I am using ngRepeat directory. This item in data.instance iterates through each instant in the data instance, creating a row. If you want to style your table, style likewise. You can preview the output. Scope is an object that stores the variables and functions that can be used in HTML. It acts as a bridge between the client controller and the HTML structure that is rendered on the page. Scopes allow for dynamic data binding, ensuring that updates in the client-side data are automatically reflected on the HTML and vice versa. Let's look at an example. First, let me show how to pass a variable from client controller to the HTML. For this demonstration, I have created a widget called demo. Let's take a variable. The string is passed from client controller. To display this message in the preview, I am considering a h3 element, taking double braces to get the data. You can preview the output here. This will display the message from scope object in the client controller. Now let us look at an example that demonstrates how to pass values from HTML to the client controller. For that, I am considering a function. Scope.show alert off. I am creating an alert called you have entered I am concatenating with the user input like scope.user_input. To get this input from the HTML, I am considering a div element within that input element with the type text. And for data binding, I am considering ng model. This thing. And placeholder as enter here. To get this alert, I need a button. When I click this button, I have to get the alert over here. For that, I am calling this function. Let's preview the output. If I give an input like ServiceNow and submit it, it will get directly reflect on the alert tool. Angular filters. What are filters? In AngularJS, filters are generally used to modify the data. Commonly used filters include currency, date, filter, JSON, limit to, lowercase, uppercase, number, and order by. Now let's try it out practically one by one. Firstly, let's start with currency filter. Further, take a paragraph element within the double braces, give a digit, and separate the filter with a pipe. This filter displays the amount in US dollars with 2 decimal places. Then the date filter. For that, consider a date. I'm calling this to HTML. I'm separating with the pipe and the date filter. You can preview the output. Then the filter. For that we need items like apple, cake, berry, cherry, peach. I need the items only containing the R. As it's an array, I'm taking an ordered list, and to get the items, I'm using ng repeat. Item. To get the items with R, take a pipe, give filter R. You can preview the output as berry and cherry, which contains only the letter R. Then JSON filter. It converts a JavaScript object into a JSON string. Take an object, name as John, age 30, and city is New York. To get the values, call the person and give the filter JSON. You can preview the output in string format. Then limit to filter. For that I am considering only these items, and for that I need only the first 3 items. It limits the values in the array. I am taking the same element and I am giving the filter as limit to 3. You can see that we are getting only these 3 elements. Uppercase filter. Within the double braces, give ServiceNow and use the filter uppercase. You can preview the output in uppercase. Then the same thing with the lower cases. You can see all the elements turn to lowercase. Then the number filter. You can preview the output in thousands. It enhances the readability and allows for control over decimal precision. Finally, order by filter. For that I am taking an array. Within that objects.
Now I have to order all these people based on location. Add a filter order by. As we have to order by location, you can preview the output. As we have given the location as its property, it sorted items based on the location, I, and SU. If you have any queries, please comment below. Thanks for watching.